On the night Paige found the lipstick stain, the apartment was silent, too silent for a home that used to hum with easy laughter and half-finished conversations. The shade wasn't hers, and it wasn't subtle, a bright coral print on a coffee mug tucked behind the toaster, as if someone had used the kitchen like a hiding place and forgot that secrets leave fingerprints. Paige didn't shout. She did what quiet people do when the floor shifts, she watched. And in the days that followed, she realized the stain wasn't the problem. It was a signpost pointing to a person who kept drifting closer to the center of her marriage, her sister-in-law. Welcome to Tales by Lima, where real lives meet turning points. If you love layered, human tales with hope at the end, you're in the right place. Paige and Evan married for the small things, shared playlists, grocery lists written in the same tidy block letters, the way he always left the last slice of pizza because he said she enjoyed the finale. They lived in a bright, modest apartment with a balcony that caught the evening breeze. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful, until Delia arrived. Delia was Evan's younger sister, brilliant, charming, and almost allergic to stability. She wore confidence like perfume and entered rooms as if she were the headline. When her startup collapsed and her lease ended, Evan suggested she crash with them for a few weeks while she found her footing. Paige said yes because that's what you do when family needs a soft place to land. She prepared the guest room, fluffed the pillows, set a small vase of daisies on the nightstand. She meant it when she wrote the note, "Welcome home, Delia. We're glad you're here." The first week was fine. Delia cooked on Sunday and turned the kitchen into a restaurant, hand-tossed pasta, roasted tomatoes, basil in a jar. She told stories that made everyone laugh. She was dazzling, and Paige wanted to be generous enough to enjoy it without keeping score. But generosity gets heavy when it isn't reciprocated. Delia borrowed Paige's silk scarf without asking. She took over the bathroom with serums and sprays that steamed the mirror and made the tiles slick. She turned the living room into a temporary office, commandeering the best chair and leaving half-charged devices plugged into every outlet. When Paige suggested a small basket for Delia's things, Delia smiled sweetly and said, "Of course," then used the basket as a pedestal for her speakers. One Tuesday, Evan came home late, later than usual. He texted, but texts don't stop the mind from drawing unkind pictures. He entered with takeout and apologies, kissed Paige's temple, and launched into a story about traffic. Delia burst from the hallway 2 minutes later, hair done, makeup flawless, asking if anyone wanted to taste test a cocktail recipe she was perfecting for brand partnerships. Evan said yes. Paige said yes because saying no felt like turning off the lights in her own home. That night, Paige turned off the lamp and lay awake, listening to the soft hum of the city. She made a promise to herself, "I will protect the life I've built, and I will do it with dignity." She didn't know yet that the next move wouldn't be hers. It would be Delia's. Saturday morning arrived with the warmth of sunshine under the curtains. Paige made coffee, set fruit on a plate, and opened her phone to a notification that didn't belong to her, a direct message forwarded from a mutual acquaintance. It was a photo of Evan and Delia at a dim restaurant, heads bent close, eyes smiling, intimate in a way that was technically innocent but emotionally loud. The time stamp was from Thursday night when Evan had said the team stayed late. The caption from the sender was blunt, "You okay?" Paige's hands went cool. She wasn't a fan of shows, but she understood optics. She replayed Thursday, Evan late, takeout, Delia's cocktails. Had they gone out before that? After? She checked her call log, Evan had texted, Delia had posted nothing that night. She scrolled through Delia's stories with a detective's patience. Nothing. Which was the tell? Delia, who documented every latte, had gone quiet during that window. Evan emerged sleepy and unguarded, kissed Paige's cheek, and reached for a mug, the coral mug. Paige slid it away and offered him another. "I got a message," she said, tone calm, back straight. She set the phone on the counter with the photo open. Evan went still. A muscle in his jaw tightened. He read the room, Paige's steady eyes, the tidy kitchen, the absence of anger that is somehow heavier than a shout. "It's not what it looks like," he said, the oldest sentence in the world. "Delia asked me to meet a brand rep who wanted both of us for a family campaign. I should have told you. I didn't because I didn't want to make you feel sidelined." "Not telling me is what sidelined me," Paige replied softly. "Why didn't she ask me to come?" Evan didn't have an answer. Or maybe he did, but it wasn't a good one. Delia swanned in wearing a robe that looked like starlight and ease. "Morning, team," she sang, pouring herself coffee into, of course, the coral mug. She clocked the phone on the counter, the photo, the frost in the air, and smiled with the confidence of someone who believes she can steer any storm. "Oh, that. The lighting was bad, we skipped posting it," she said. "Didn't want to confuse my audience. Brand stuff is complicated, Paige. Didn't want to drag you into the weeds." Paige placed her palms on the counter, grounding herself in the cool stone. "If it involves my husband and the way our marriage looks in public, I want the weeds," she said. "Invite me. Every time." Delia raised her hands as if to say relax. "Understood." Then, lighter, "We're a team." Paige nodded. "Then team rules. We communicate. No surprise meetings, no quiet photos, no using Evan's name for deliveries. And please stop touching him like you're co-hosting a show. We're not content, we're family." Delia's eyes flashed, then softened into something like apology that never quite arrived. "Of course," she said, a ribbon of steel under silk. "Boundaries." For a week, things improved. Delia did her dishes. She asked before borrowing clothes. She CC'd Paige on an email about a sponsored picnic shoot that, to be fair, sounded fun. Paige packed a basket with lemon water and berries. Evan lugged a plaid blanket and made jokes about how he'd become a prop husband. Delia photographed everything, applauding domestic glam like it was a genre she'd invented. But control isn't satisfied with compromise, it wants a podium. The following Friday, Evan's mother Marion called, warm voice, soft laugh, the kind of woman who signs texts with little hearts. "Honey," Marion said to Paige, "Delia mentioned there's tension. I wanted to check on you. She says you're having trouble understanding her career and that you're keeping Evan from supporting her." The words were careful, but the message landed like a stone. Delia had framed Paige as the obstacle, the unglamorous wall. "Marion," Paige said gently, "we're fine. We're just learning to share space. I would never keep Evan from supporting his sister. I only ask that he also supports his wife." "I know," Marion replied, relieved. "I know your heart." When Paige hung up, she felt both grateful and sharpened. Delia wasn't just playing to the camera. She was shaping the narrative with family. That required a response that wasn't a fight but a reset. That evening, Paige invited Delia to the balcony. The city was gold. "This can still work," Paige said. "But I need something real from you. Not charm. Not content. Real." Delia studied the skyline, then Paige. "You think I'm trying to replace you," she said, voice almost kind. "I'm not. I'm trying to keep my brother from drifting away. Ever since he got married, the group chats changed. The plans changed. He changed. I'm just hitting the brakes." Paige let the honesty land. "Marriage doesn't take him from you," she said softly. "It gives him a home to rest in so he can show up for everyone better, including you. But it can't work if you turn our home into a stage. It needs to be a sanctuary." Delia's shoulders dipped. For a second, Paige saw the girl who adored her big brother and hated feeling left behind. Then the second passed. Delia lifted her chin. "I'll try," she said. No promises. But I'll try. Sometimes, I'll try is enough to buy time. 2 days later, time ran out. Paige returned from the grocery store to find the apartment in polite disarray, wardrobe rack in the living room, camera on a tripod, a ring light casting a faux sunrise. Delia, animated, stood close to a man in a sleek polo. Grant, the brand rep. Evan hovered near the kitchen, holding a clipboard, out of place in his own house. "We're doing a quick test," Delia chirped. "Family angle, remember?" Grant brought concept boards. She flipped one around. On the mock-up, Paige saw a staged, cozy breakfast image featuring Delia and Evan at the table. Paige wasn't in the picture. She wasn't even a coffee cup. Her chest went hollow. "Where am I?" she asked evenly. Grant fumbled. "Early sketches. We assumed siblings would read clearer on camera. Less romantic." "Evan is not just a brother," Paige said, voice steady, "he's a husband." She looked at Evan, not angry, just clear. "We either do this as a family, including me, or we don't do it in our home." Silence gathered like witnesses. Evan inhaled, then set the clipboard down. "We don't do it," he said, choosing the sentence that would change everything. Delia blinked. "No," he said. "We don't do it. Not like this." He turned to Grant. "Thanks for coming. We're going to pass." Grant nodded, relieved to be out of the blast radius. He packed quickly. The door clicked shut. Delia's face hardened. "You're letting her run the show," she said to Evan, words sharp. "I'm choosing my marriage," he replied. "You're welcome in it. But you don't direct it." Delia's smile was small and dangerous. "Noted," she said, and the room felt colder, as if she'd opened a window no one could see. That night, a new message pinged Paige's phone. It wasn't a photo this time. It was an email forwarded from an anonymous account to her work address. The subject line, "You deserve to know." The attachment, a draft pitch deck for a family lifestyle brand featuring Evan and Delia as co-hosts of a series called Harper at Home. The copy called Paige off-camera support. Paige printed the deck because paper gives lies weight. She laid each page on the dining table, white sheets like stepping stones through a swamp. Evan read in silence, guilt pooling around his shoes. "I didn't know," he said, throat tight. "I swear." Paige believed him. Trust, she knew, isn't the absence of mistakes, it's the presence of repairs. "Then let's repair," she said, and her calm steadied them both. "We address this, together." They started where all good fixes start, with clarity. Evan called Delia into the living room. She arrived with the half-smile of someone ready to improvise. Paige gestured at the papers. "Explain." Delia scanned the pages, shrugged. "It's a draft," she said. "Options. The market responds to siblings. It's clean. Less complicated. You're quieter." She softened her voice, a practiced tenderness. "Paige, this isn't personal. It's positioning." "It is personal," Paige replied, voice gentle but unmovable. "Because the position you've chosen for me is invisible." Delia sighed, as if she were the one exhausted by all this emotion. "This is what works," she said. "Evan and I have chemistry on camera. You don't even like being online." "I like my husband," Paige said. "And I love our life. I won't let you rewrite it for views." Evan stepped in. "I'm out," he said to his sister. "No pitches. No shows. Not now, not later. This stops." Delia stared at him, truly stunned. For a heartbeat. "You didn't have to help me," she said. "I did," Paige replied. "Because I want you to win. But not at my expense." Delia nodded, eyes glassy. I'm sorry, she said finally, words honest and small. I got scared of being left behind and I tried to grab what wasn't mine. Paige exhaled. Fear makes thieves of all of us, she said. But we get to choose when to stop taking. Delia wiped her eyes, laughed at herself, and then, with the unpracticed clumsiness of a real apology, said, I'll move out next week. Not because I'm running, but because it's time I build my own space. And I'll call the brand and withdraw the family pitch. Evan squeezed his sister's shoulder. Thank you, he said, relief and love braided together. That night, after dinner, Delia washed the coral mug by hand and placed it carefully at the back of the cupboard. I'll buy new ones for you, she said to Paige, a small ceremony of change. Paige smiled. Keep it, she said. Let it remind you of the line you won't cross again. The apartment felt different, lighter, like a room after a storm when you open the windows and the air is new. Nothing was wrapped in a bow. There would still be adjustments, conversations, learning to live the boundaries they'd set. But the story had shifted, from a quiet invasion to a deliberate rebuilding. The envelope looked ordinary, white, sealed, the kind of mail that usually held bank statements or appointment reminders. But the return address in clean black ink read, Hartwell and Pierce Legal Associates. Paige found it on the welcome mat when she stepped out to water the balcony plants. The morning was quiet, the city below still half asleep. She picked the letter up slowly, the paper stiff, formal. She didn't open it, not yet. She walked inside and placed it on the dining table where sunlight stretched warm across the wood. When Evan came out of the bedroom, still tying the knot in his tie, Paige simply pointed to it. He paused mid-step, shoulders tightening. In silence, he sat down, slid his finger under the seal, and unfolded the letter. The room felt like it was holding its breath. When Evan reached the second paragraph, his head dropped into his hands. He didn't speak for a full 30 seconds. Paige pulled out the chair beside him. Tell me, she said softly. Delia's old startup, Evan said, voice low. They're conducting an internal audit. Inventory went missing before they shut down. Equipment. Merchandise. The board is reopening the case. Anyone listed on company communications is under review. Delia's name, and mine. He pushed the letter toward Paige. Paige read carefully. The language was formal, indirect, but the meaning was unmistakable. They were being contacted because Delia had used Evan's email, Evan's address, and in several internal files, Evan's name appeared as Operation Support, something he had never agreed to. Delia had used him. Not with malice, but with fear. With desperation. Before Paige could speak, Delia emerged from the hallway, small suitcase open on the couch, mid-packing. She froze when she saw the letter. The color drained from her face. No, she whispered. No. They weren't supposed to reopen that. I didn't do anything. I swear I didn't take anything. Evan stood, the letter trembling in his hand, not with anger, but with something heavier. Betrayal doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just sags the shoulders. Delia, he said quietly, tell us what happened. Delia sat down slowly, hands clasped in her lap like a child preparing to confess something she'd rehearsed many times alone. When the company was falling apart, she said, voice thin, everyone was grabbing what they could, back pay, equipment, samples, anything. I didn't take anything. I didn't. But, when the paperwork needed a stable contact address for shipments and returns, I used yours. Her eyes flicked to Evan. I didn't think it would matter. I thought it would close so fast no one would ever look again. Paige sighed, a long, quiet sigh that held exhaustion, empathy, and concern. Delia, this isn't just messy. This is legal. Delia's eyes filled, panic rising like floodwater. I didn't mean to drag Evan into it. I didn't. Everything was falling apart and I grabbed the nearest anchor. I didn't think. Paige reached across the table and placed her hand over Delia's. It was not forgiveness. It was steadiness. Okay, Paige said. Then we handle this. All of us. Delia's lip trembled. You're not sending me away? No, Paige said, voice firm and gentle, but this time, you don't run. You face it, with us. That's what family means. For the first time, Delia cried without theatrics. Not attention tears. Real tears. Small, quiet, tired. Evan bent down, rested his forehead against his sister's. We can fix mistakes, he said. We can't fix lies. So from here on out, the truth is the only language. Deal? Delia nodded into his shoulder. But they all knew something, telling the truth was going to cost something. And the bill had just arrived. The law office was cool and modern, all glass and gray stone. Paige sat beside Evan, hands folded in her lap, spine straight. Delia sat across from them, clutching a slim folder of documents, her leg bouncing in a rhythm of nerve she couldn't control. Across the table sat Ms. Rain, the legal representative, sharp-eyed, calm, the kind of person who could read a lie before it formed. Thank you for coming, Ms. Rain said, her voice smooth. I want to be clear that no one here is being accused of wrongdoing. We are gathering statements and clarifying roles. Delia nodded, throat tight. I understand. Ms. Rain leaned forward. The issue is that inventory worth several $1,000s went missing during the final quarter. Your name appears in internal communication authorizing certain shipments. That authorization appears to reference your brother's address. Delia swallowed. I didn't approve shipments. Someone used my login. I just provided the address for returns. Do you have proof? Ms. Rain asked. No malice. Just precision. Delia shook her head slowly. Paige saw something then, something true and human. Delia wasn't manipulative in this moment. She was scared. Very scared. Evan reached into the folder Paige had organized. We brought a timeline of Delia's residence history, bank statements showing she never received or resold inventory, and screenshots of emails showing multiple team members had her login credentials during the shutdown. Ms. Rain reviewed each page carefully. This helps, she said. A lot. Relief washed over Delia's face, not complete, but enough to breathe. And moving forward, Ms. Rain continued, we'll need testimony. Truthful, clear testimony. If you cooperate with this process openly, I believe you'll be cleared. Delia nodded. I will. I swear I will. The conversation moved to follow-up forms, witness statements, dates, signatures. Paige handled the structure. Evan handled the emotional support. Delia handled the ownership. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't glamorous. It was accountability. When they walked out of the office into the afternoon light, Delia exhaled shakily. I don't deserve you to, she said. Paige turned to her, expression incredibly soft. Maybe not before, she said. But you're becoming someone who does. And Delia didn't argue. Delia moved out the next week, not to escape, but to start again. A small studio apartment with light gray walls and enough sunlight to grow new beginnings. She furnished it slowly, piece by piece, choosing items with intention rather than image. She came by for dinner every Sunday, not every day, not every hour, not woven into every breath. Just Sundays. With laughter. With space. With boundaries that breathed instead of choked. Paige and Evan, for the first time in months, had their home back. Not the old home. A better one. They cooked together again. They played music loud again. Their conversations no longer had an invisible third presence hovering in the doorway. One evening, while washing dishes together, Evan looked at Paige the way he used to, like she was the place his life began and returned to. "You saved us," he said. Paige shook her head. "No. We saved us. Because we chose each other when it mattered." He dried his hands and cupped her face. "Thank you for not giving up on her." Paige smiled. "Thank you for not giving up on us." There were no grand speeches. No final showdowns. Just quiet healing. And sometimes, quiet is the loudest victory. Sunday evenings quickly became a rhythm again, not chaotic, not staged, just warm. Paige would set the table with simple white plates. Evan would chop vegetables and hum under his breath. The windows would be open just enough for the late afternoon breeze. And at exactly 5:45 p.m., the knock would come, light, tentative, respectful. Delia would step in, not with bags, not with cameras, not with energy. Big enough to fill the whole room. Just with herself. She brought things now, not flashy gifts, but thoughtful contributions. Fresh rosemary she grew in a pot on her balcony. A loaf of bread she baked herself after watching tutorials on repeat. Sometimes, just her time. She took her seat at the table like someone who understood that presence is a privilege. One particular Sunday, the conversation drifted toward dreams. Real ones. Not curated ones. Evan spoke first. "I've been thinking about going back to school," he said, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Getting my certification in project management. I've been coasting. I want to be better at building things that last." Paige's smile was soft and proud. "That suits you," she said. "You're patient. You finish what you start." Delia stirred her tea slowly. "I've been thinking about deleting everything," she said quietly. "Not forever. Just, wiping the brand. Starting again. But this time telling the truth, not the polished version of me." Evan raised an eyebrow. "The truth might surprise people." Delia exhaled. "Good. I'm tired of performing being the only thing people see when they look at me." Paige nodded. Authenticity always outlasts aesthetic. People can feel when something is real. There was a moment, small, barely noticeable, where Delia looked at Paige the way a younger sister looks at someone they wished they had admired sooner. Respect had finally taken root. And in that quiet, without grand apology or scripted emotion, something healed. Not all at once. But enough. Autumn came. The leaves shifted. The air thinned. And life, for once, was calm. Delia received a final letter from the legal firm. "Your cooperation has confirmed no direct involvement. No further action required." She read it 3 times to be sure. She didn't run to Paige and Evan immediately. She sat with it. Breathed. Let the relief settle in her bones. Then she knocked on her brother's door. When Paige opened it, Delia stepped forward and hugged her, not a quick hug, not a performative one, but a full, sincere embrace that came from the center of her chest. "I didn't just get cleared legally," she whispered. "I got cleared emotionally. And I know that's because you stayed." Paige hugged back, eyes closed. "We stay for people who choose to grow." Delia pulled away and laughed softly. A real laugh. One that didn't seek an audience. "I don't want to be the person who needs saving anymore," she said. "I want to be someone who adds, not takes. Someone who supports, not consumes. Someone who knows how to stand on her own feet." Evan stepped forward, hand over his heart. "Then we help you build the ground. Not walk it for you, just build it alongside you." Delia nodded, tears warm in her eyes. This time, her gratitude didn't come in speech. It came in change. She took a job, not glamorous, but stable. She joined a business communication course at the community center. She began posting online again, but this time, she showed the real version of her life. No perfect lighting. No staged laughter. Just growth, patience, trying again. And people, real people, responded. Because authenticity has a language of its own. Months passed, and the house felt different. Not just tidy. Peaceful. Evan finished his certification courses. Paige began designing jewelry again, something she had always loved but had set aside during the storm. Delia built a small online series teaching everyday people how to elevate simple routines with beauty and intention, not extravagance, not pressure. Just joy. And one evening, the three of them stood together in the kitchen, stirring pasta, laughing about something small and ordinary. The kind of laughter that doesn't need an audience. No cameras. No rivalry. No competition. Just family, the way it should have been from the start. Paige leaned against the counter, watching the two siblings talk, really talk. No tension. No unspoken battle lines. Just love. And she realized something. Saving a marriage is not always dramatic. Sometimes, it is simply choosing dignity over reaction, boundaries over silence, and compassion over pride. Delia caught Paige watching her and smiled. A genuine, quiet, grateful smile. "We made it," she said. Paige nodded. "We did." And just like that, the home was whole. Not because it avoided storms, but because it learned how to rebuild after them. Months had passed, the seasons had changed, and the home that once felt split at the seams now breathed with peace. Paige stood on the balcony one quiet evening, looking out over the calm city lights. Evan wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, his chin resting gently on her shoulder. There was no rush, no distance, no questions lingering in the air anymore, only the solid warmth of love that had been tested and proven. Inside, laughter spilled softly from the kitchen as Delia arranged flowers in a glass vase. No cameras, no audience, no performance. Just a woman who had finally learned to choose healing over image, growth over pride, family over spotlight. Paige turned to look through the window, Evan smiling, Delia humming, the home glowing golden with evening light, and she realized something profound. They hadn't just survived the storm. They had rebuilt, brick by brick, boundary by boundary, truth by truth. Love hadn't been loud. Love had been steady. And sometimes, steady is the strongest thing of all. Paige exhaled softly and whispered. "We made it." And for the first time in a long time, it was true. Moral of the story. Family is not about who is closest by blood, but who protects your peace. Love doesn't thrive by avoiding conflict, it grows through honest conversations and mutual respect. Boundaries don't break relationships, they protect them. And most importantly, healing begins the moment we choose growth over pride. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If this touched your heart, if you felt something, if you learned something, don't leave without telling me your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps more people find these stories, and your voice matters here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, so you never miss another heartfelt story like this one. Until next time, stay kind, stay gentle with yourself, and remember, peace is worth protecting.